Welcome to the Sheffield Sunday As Bill Sees It meeting. This is a main share meeting, and today it is great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Edwina S., who's coming to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open for general sharing, or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you, Edwina. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andy, and thanks, Young. My name is Edwina, and I'm an alcoholic. And it's lovely to be on with you all this morning. Lovely to see some friends and familiar faces online as well. It's funny, I think Young asked me, a couple of months ago nearly to do this share, and then in the last few weeks to pick a reading. And every reading I flicked to, I was like, oh, I love that reading. Oh, I love that reading. And that's just so typical of me. I'm in that constant state of, I can't make a decision. I can't even pick a reading to make a decision. Then as soon as I pick the reading that I like and send it to Young, then straight away I said to him, maybe you'll pick the reading. Which he didn't reply to, by the way. So we're told when we come into recovery, that we have to get rid of fear, or outgrow fear. Fear is a very constant companion of mine, and I'm not driven by it all the time, but it's always there, fear of the right thing, the wrong thing, fear of losing something I have, fear of not getting what I want. And it's something AA in the program, the 12 steps, have taught me to walk alongside, And I guess that's some of the part of even the reading for me, pain and discomfort, depression, and whatever other little words jump out at the reading there. I had no relationship with those things in active addiction. I had no relationship with that type of stuff. When I've had any of those feelings go on in my alcoholism, what I done was I drank. And that's all I knew how to do. I couldn't sit with any of those uncomfortable feelings, and the program in AA has taught me how to walk side by side with all of those things when they come up and outgrow them and, feel them. And both my parents were alcoholics. My mother was a member of AA for the last 2 decades of her life. She just died last year. And my dad, who was an alcoholic, never made it to the rooms, but he did die by suicide. And I really identify with him the more I go on in my journey in life, because that's how I was in my alcoholism. I felt stuff happen. I didn't know how to cope with it. Drink was a great relief for me for a very long time, and helped me with all of those things. And, and at times when I wouldn't have it, I'd want to die, and now come into recovery and to be shown that you can walk gracefully through no matter what life throws at you. It's so beautiful what we've really been shown throughout the 12-step program. And just to touch on, before I come into AA and how it is now, and to maybe hopefully try tie it in with the reading. We'll see what God has in store. But I'm an alcoholic, and I have been an alcoholic since a very young age. Both my parents, as I said, were alcoholics, and most of my family are alcoholics and have died from alcoholism. A lot of members of my family have grandparents, aunts, uncles, sister who died from liver failure, cirrhosis of the liver a couple of years ago as well. Still a sister who's homeless on the streets of Dublin, who's dying of alcoholism. So it's been rampant in my family from a very young age. And I absolutely loved alcohol. I loved the effects it produced. I loved, like most alcoholics, how it made me feel. And it done exactly what I said in the tin, I guess, for a long time, Was my life, was I a daily drinker? No, not at the beginning. It started off for me at weekends. It started off for me always drinking too much. The first night I remember drinking spirit vodka, I was as young as 9. My sister was 16. It was her 16th birthday. They were all drinking vodka, and I, downed a glass of straight vodka and got sick. Was I alcoholic from then? I don't know. I didn't drink alcoholically from then though. But I do remember as a young teenager just loving the weekends to come, loving to couldn't wait to get to the weekend. And, there's a part of my life and my little journey that I didn't want to be the way I didn't want to go down that road. I had seen what alcohol had done to my family. I had seen it had destroyed everybody. But I'm just one of those alcoholics who think, I won't catch me. Sure, I'll know better and I'll do better. And I was quite probably arrogant in that, delusional, naive, had grew up in that kind of environment that knew no better either. And that's not to blame. I've come into AA with full of blame, and I've been shown by many a good man and woman around here what it is that I suffered with. So my story definitely isn't coming from a blame place, but growing up, that's how it was. And when I was as young as only 24, I was introduced to my first detox from alcoholism. And I knew it had me in trouble. I absolutely knew. I had my first daughter. She was only 1 at the time, and I was told, get your life together, or you're going to lose your marriage, you're going to lose your family, you're going to lose all of these things. And at this stage, I was absolutely a daily drinker and user, and I knew I had to get myself sorted. Did I think I was powerless when I started hearing all of those words? Did I really think that the drink had me licked? Absolutely not. No way. You know what I mean? I did not. I didn't understand any of those words. I didn't understand that kind of lingo. But thankfully I was introduced to AA back then. And that was probably the first meeting I started going to when I went into that detox place. And I started going to lots of meetings. I was told to get a lot of meetings, do many, many meetings. And I'm definitely a believer in you hear when you're ready to hear, and you see when you're ready to see. And I never heard any kind of message of that I had to change. I never heard that. It's funny, in my little world, everybody else had to change. Everybody had to change for Edwina to get sober. Everybody had to tiptoe around Edwina for Edwina to get sober. Everybody had to acknowledge and all of that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, that goes with the self-centered alcoholic. And, I got about 6 months off the drink, and it's great, you know what I mean, but I was very much unwell. I was so consumed, and there's part of that reading that talks about that compulsive themes. Besides that, with my alcoholism, my thinking was so off the Richter scale, and I would be convinced, that they didn't change, so I should drink. And after 6 months of going to AA every single day, used to do 2 meetings a day if I could. I'd go to a lunchtime one, and I'd go to an evening one in between work and jobs and a small family and a marriage that was on the rocks. But after 6 months, my mind said to me, have a drink. Nobody will know. It'll be fine. I was in Spain on a family holiday. Just have one. It'll be fine. I didn't understand what I suffered with. I didn't understand alcoholism. I didn't know that we alcoholics have this physical allergy to alcohol, that once we take one in, that we trigger that. I didn't understand that. Never, knew anything about that. I was going to so many meetings, but was just so consumed in my own thinking. So I picked up that drink, and that drink lasted me 6 years. I couldn't stay sober for another 6 years, and 6 years at the time, when you drag a small family and a husband and yourself through that, it's a long time but looking back on it, I'm so blessed it was only 6 years, because I see so many people struggle and not make their way back into the rooms and die from this illness. And I've seen that so many times. But thankfully, in those 6 years, I was smashed. Each time I would go on the spree for weeks and months, and I would make the resolution, that's it, I'm done. And I would drag myself back into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And, I was always welcome to open arms, no matter what. So if for anyone new around here, I used to be so ashamed going back in, but some sort of power guided me back in anyway. I don't know, then there's a message I have to come there, sorry. But anyway, what I did was I just kept turning up in AA, sometimes drunk. Not that I recommend that, but that's the heart of my story. But I was always welcomed. Thankfully I wasn't one of those violent, loud drunks throwing chairs around the room or anything like that. But I would just turn up, because I guess it was a place I felt safe, and the only place I might have felt welcomed. But in those few years, my marriage broke down. My husband got the courage to leave me, and, he called in social services to try and remove the kids because I wouldn't allow him to take the kids, and all the stuff that happens in active alcoholism, the mess of it, crashing the car with the kids in the car. I mean, they were only babies, ending up in hospitals, ending up in all sorts of places, and was it a good idea for me to get sober. Never was it, that I should change and get myself well. It was always, they're treating me this way, he's treating me that way. If only they would treat me better, you know what I mean? And, until one morning when I woke up, and I had that in my head where I didn't want to drink this day. I didn't want to drink. And my little kids were pattering around the house, and they were only 3 and 7 at the time. And, Mammy, are you getting up, tiptoeing around Mammy, because Mammy's hungover or sick, physically withdrawing. And that kind of sergeant major drunk, dry drunk, I'll be down in a minute, go down with your sister. Just unable to connect to the things I loved most in the world, and the battle on in the head, get a drink into you. If you get a drink into your body, if you put something into your body, you'll be able to connect with your kids. You'll be able to function as a mother. You'll be able to just be, and that's where the alcoholism had taken me in the end. There was no big parties. There hadn't been for many years. I was a lone drinker and always at home with the babies. And I found myself that particular day drinking, making the decision to drinking and feeling for the very first time. It's like a real God moment. I'm so grateful for this moment. I was sitting in my car on my own. I had dropped the kids off to someone's house, and I had a moment where I realised for the very first time, it's the most profound thing. Edwina, you're the fucking problem. It sounds so simple, but it has been the most phenomenal thing that has ever happened to me in my life. And it continues to be the most powerful thing that happens in my life, because equally now, almost 12 years sober in recovery, it still is apparent to me that I need to be told constantly, day after day, that I'm the problem when I'm disturbed, and that moment took me into another detox centre and treatment, and a very broken woman, an extremely broken. And I think the reading kind of ties with that as well. Broken enough to be open enough to hear God's gentle whisper. And that's the truth of it. I had to be smashed open, and I was. And when I went into treatment, please God, for the last time into a detox unit in a treatment setting, I heard the message of recovery. I heard the message of God. I heard the 12 steps. I had been hearing how it works being read out for 6 or 7 years, and I never knew anything. I could read it off my head. I knew the knowledge of reading this stuff, but I never knew what it meant or what it felt like. And I really heard for the first time there absolutely is a solution. There's a way out of this. And I asked a woman that I met in that detox centre, would she help me? She said she would, and she started taking me through the process of the 12 steps. It's amazing. And, one of the readings, one of the sentences in that reading, as Bill sees it, is "this too shall pass." And I don't have any tattoos, but I always say if I got a tattoo, I'd love to get printed on my forehead, "this too shall pass." You know what I mean? To tell everybody, but also to look in the mirror each day to remind myself that this too shall pass. And it can be used in so much avenues and so many areas of my life. I didn't know when I came into early recovery that this too shall pass, that the obsession to want to take a drink or to use any kind of mind altering substance would pass. I was a broken child of alcoholic parents and addicts. I didn't know there was another way to live until I came in here. And I was told by people like you online and people listening and people all over the world, our fellowship is actually quite small. When you start growing in recovery, you start meeting. I didn't know until I heard all the messages of hope that this too shall pass. The obsession left me. It absolutely has left me. There has never in all of these years been a thought for me to say, I want to go drink. Obviously the thoughts come, oh, look at that drink. Oh my God, wouldn't that be beautiful? Yeah, their thoughts, but never has that compulsive theme like the reading describes, that obsession of the mind returned where it was a good idea to take a drink or a drug. And I know why. You know, I know it's because I've embarked on the journey of the 12 step with God. I know that God has replaced for me and done for me what I can't do for myself. And so much more then happens, doesn't it? Like the longer you're around recovery and in recovery, and then like all as you want when you come in for us, it's that obsession to take a drink, to be gone. Like, you know what I mean? Do anything. I'd fucking sell me kids to get rid of the obsession. Like, you know what I mean? And then you come in and you start getting so fancy with your wants and your desires and your needs and your this and that. And I'm 6 months sober and, you know, I want my marriage back now. And I deserve it back now. I put the man through hell for 12 years, but now I'm 6 months sober and he should see how well I'm doing and how great of a mother I am. And for people who don't know me, I'm being very sarcastic when I'm saying this. It's not true if you're new around here. It's not, you know what I mean? I didn't deserve any of those things, but I thought I did, and I couldn't wait to make me amend to my ex because I had a little plan that, you know, we would get back together and things would, you know, because that would be God's will, wouldn't it? Surely that would be God's will, that a happy family would be reassembled, you know, but our book tells us there's a long road of reconstruction ahead and sometimes the family doesn't come back. And what happened when I made me amend to my ex-husband was I expected for him to reach out and say, oh yeah, no problem. Instead I lied actually in the amend first of all, and he asked me a question and I lied, which meant the amend meant jack shit, and I needed to go away and pray and do some more work and go back and make me amend again when I was really ready to get brutally honest and get real. And by the time I went back to make the amend, a year sober I guess, instead of him asking me the question, which I was all prepared for, you know the old saying, when we make a plan, God laughs. I was all prepared for the question to be asked, and he didn't ask me. Instead he told me, it's too late. I can't come back. My partner that I'm seeing now is expecting a baby. And I was devastated. And I'm like one of those, you know, oh my God, why is God doing this to me? I'm doing everything right. And hindsight is such a great thing, isn't it? You know, at the time, it took me a good couple of years in recovery to get over the heartache of that. You know, they say pain is the touchstone to all spiritual growth. It doesn't mean that's good that these things happen. It just means something good can come from it when we walk gracefully through whatever life's ups and downs come our way, you know. And of course I got through those things and I managed to stay sober because of good AA members and people listening to me day and night, going on and on and on and on and on, you know. But I guess the most constant thing in this was because I had finished my own 12 steps and I was helping other women get sober in my community and men, that was the most constant thing in my life, was the connection with AA, the connection with God and helping others. It says it in the book, when sex is troublesome, we throw ourselves the deeper into helping others. And that's what started, you know, like I can see now when I look back that God had a bigger plan, and the reason why the marriage didn't get back together, and that I was really busy in recovery helping and getting myself sober and becoming a mother and really starting to have a relationship with God and myself, because I had never had a relationship with God or myself. I always believed in God, but I'd never had a relationship. I'm like most little Irish Catholic girls who prayed out fear and prayed because she was afraid and prayed for, you know, daddy and mommy to stop fighting, and they wouldn't. So like, you know, that kind of, but that's, you know, I see now when I look back that God had bigger plans. You know, he had bigger plans, and that all of that stuff went to really good use for me growing along in recovery and growing along in the fellowship and helping other people, you know. And that passed. This too shall pass. The obsession to want to take a drink passed. The obsession for my ex-husband and to get back with him or to get back at him or to do passed. And then life, you know, starts happening. You know, this year alone, in the last year, I've lost my mother and my nephew. My mum died at a very young age of only 63. She was also a member of AA. And my nephew died at age 50 and he had cancer. And it's his mum, who's my sister, who's homeless. She's an alcoholic and has been homeless for almost 10 years now, living on the streets. And like, it's amazing when you really have a relationship with God, that no matter what happens in life, as painful as it is, that you can go into a space of feeling really sad, but knowing it's all going to be okay. that grief is just a normal process for everybody in life. That's not just me that's going to experience it, that every single one of you guys on the meeting is going to have to experience it. And I can either use it to open my heart bigger and walk gracefully with God, which is, I'd like to think, is what I've chosen to do over these years, or I can shut down and get cold and isolate and be by myself, even though sometimes that's what I need to do, and I have to just meet me grief where it's at. But most of the time in these last 12 months going through this, I have had the power and the courage through prayer and good people in recovery to get up and to be part of a greater good, and it's not that, like we say, pain is the touchstone to all spiritual growth, and it's not that that's a good thing that happened, but something good I know has come from it. I can really take the good from going through all of these experiences I'm going through. And one of those experiences, when I look back on it, was when my mum passed away just before Christmas last year, like 2025. I'm confusing myself. Two of the ladies that I happened to be sponsoring, I was on step 12, which I had two women in the middle of book work. And, I took obviously a bit of time out, a couple of weeks out from doing book work with people. And I was at my mum's house and I was doing all the stuff we do, which is turning up for my family, saying eulogies, arranging funerals, being the actual member of the family who everyone's turning to. Lots of AA people turned up, obviously, because we were both in the fellowships in different counties in Ireland, but we both would equally know just as many people. And I lost my train of thought there. What I was going to say about that. Oh yeah, the two ladies that I happened to be doing book work with, within the space of 2 months, those two ladies that I was working with, both their mothers died. It was just the most bizarre thing, because I had sponsored so many women throughout me 12 years in AA and recovery and in different fellowships, but I had never had any women whose mothers had died. And then all of a sudden, and it's funny, when I remember when my mum passed away, I remember out loud saying, Jesus Christ, God, you better use this to some good, because the way I'm fucking feeling at the moment, it's cruciating pain. And within 2 months, both those women that I was helping, the mums passed away, and both those women's mums were in their 60s also. There was so much. Now, I'm not saying, I just see God's bigger plan, and all that had to happen for God to place the right people in our paths in AA. I can't comprehend it. I can't understand it, but I don't need to understand it. It's the same as everything else. I don't need to know why anymore. I don't need to know how. I don't need to know all that. I just need to know that God has turned up in my life, turned up and showed off, and has done so much for me and given me so much power and grace to be able to get through these, that I was able to be of service to those women. And instead of trying to fix it and tell them, oh, this too shall pass, or, but just really to be able to embody, sit with them and know that I have been through exactly this pain. I know exactly, but guess what? We don't have to drink through this. We don't have to medicate ourselves through this. We don't have to do any of those things. We just have to trust that God has us in this one day at a time, and we'll get through this, and it's going to be okay. And I mean, they're just little tippings of stuff that happens that most people will experience in life: death, divorce, job losses, all of those things have been a part of my story. And I remember someone saying, the longer you're around, Edwina, the more you're going to experience in life. And it's true. The longer you're around, life is full of the ups and downs. But no matter what happens, if I can just remain constant in my program and constant contact with others and frequent contact with newcomers and turning up to my AA group and my other groups and doing service positions and, fitting myself, that no matter what comes my way, I know I'm going to be okay, and I know I'm going to get through it no matter what. And just to talk about the little part of the reading as well, which is the fragments of prayer bring far more than mere comfort. They keep me on track of right acceptance. They break up my compulsive themes of guilt, depression, rebellion and pride, and sometimes they endow me with the courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference. So those constant thinking thoughts like, oh, it's not fair, I should have done more, they hurt me, all of that kind of like constant thinking that I'm so conditioned to do, to break it up with the fragment of the prayer and the interruption that brings comfort, that kind of spiral of the mind, the way it goes into that. So bringing into those like little short phrases, this too shall pass. Like, I mean, it's so beautiful. Like, no matter what we're going through, it's going to pass. The good days, the bad days, the ugly days, the sad days, the happy days. And they bring you back to that place of acceptance. If I can accept myself today, which so far up to right now, I think I've had a little bit of acceptance on today. If I can accept you all as you are, and I accept the world, no matter what's going on in it, just exactly the way it's supposed to be on every given day, it's okay. I'm okay. Everything is okay. I stop fighting reality. I stop saying this shouldn't be happening in this country. That president shouldn't be doing this. He shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. It's not my business. I just need to keep right here, right now, break that reality of that spiral thinking. What does that do? Go to a meeting, call me sponsor, ring a newcomer, ask somebody else, Edwina, how they're bloody doing. Stop constantly thinking of me, 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 me. My problems, my world, my grief, my marriage, my relationship, my children, my, and instead just like thinking of somebody else and having the ability. And that was alien to me when I come into recovery first. I remember ringing me sponsor to tell her about an issue I had with somebody. And she asked me, who did you ring today to see how they were doing? Did you ring anybody today to see how they were doing? And me thinking, is she for real? Like, does she not hear what's going on in my life? Like, you know what I mean? That stuff was alien to me. It was so alien to me at the beginning. I didn't know what it meant. And then I done it, and next of all I felt, oh my God, a bit of relief. Oh, geez, this actually works. This ringing around asking other people how they're doing actually works, and it passes. And, this too shall pass. It's an action of faith. It says, you don't have to fix this moment. I just have to trust that God's moving it on, and it's all going exactly the way it's supposed to be. Like I said, before recovery, I had no relationship with pain or sitting with things. Pain meant something was wrong with me, something was unbearable or had to be escaped. If I felt lonely, if I felt rejected, if I felt ashamed, if I felt fearful, I needed to drink or I wanted to die. And, AA, like, there's another little reading I was looking at this morning, it's a school of learning, or, it's like, oh my goodness, like, I did not know how to be a woman of the world until I came into recovery. I really didn't know. Like, the steps, the program, the little slogans, all the little things we hear have just shown me how to be the woman that I knew God always intended on me to be. It was just blotted out by all the other stuff that I've picked up along my life, all the bad habits, all the ways of coping with the world, they don't serve me anymore. I don't have to live that way anymore. It's the most powerful thing to be told when you come into recovery, isn't it? Imagine, Edwina, love, you don't have to live the way you have been living. All that alcoholism that you've been dragged through and that you've dragged your babies through, this can be broken right here, right now. This can pass. The serenity prayer, I couldn't change things that have happened in my life. I can't change my past. I can't change how I was in my baby's early days in recovery. In alcoholism, I can't change that I drank throughout my pregnancies on my children. I can't change that, my mother died. I can't change certain things, but the courage to change the things I can. I can stay sober today. I can turn up here and do service for you guys on the meeting, even though I'm fearful. I'm full of fear before I come on and have to say my prayers and do what I need to do to let God hopefully demonstrate some sort of message through me. But courage is fear that said its prayers. I still have the fear, but I have the courage and the prayer and the connection with God to just be given the right next move to make. And, not to be too morbid, but when my little nephew died last Christmas, 12 months ago, he got very sick, and like I had to go looking for his mum on the streets. And when I found her to tell her boy had terminal cancer and he was going to die, and would she please get sober so she could see him, I know she wanted to see her son. She has 3 children that she hasn't seen in over 10 years. I know she wanted to see her boy. It was her firstborn child. She absolutely idolised him, which couldn't get sober to turn up to see him. And then when he died, on my next trip into her, which was 6 or 7 weeks later after my mum died, because he died only 6 weeks after my mum, I had to go find her to ask her to get sober to turn up for his funeral. And she didn't get sober to turn up for the funeral. Instead, she tried to take an overdose and ended up in hospital. And I got a call from the hospital the morning of her son's funeral to say she was in hospital after trying to kill herself. I identify as an alcoholic. Everybody else was mad at her in the family, saying, oh my God, she's so fucking selfish. Well, why couldn't she turn up? You know what I mean? But us alcoholics know what it's like to be powerless over a drink. And we also know that without a drink, we just want to die. So I exactly knew how she was. I wasn't mad at her. I was just sad for her and sad for her son. But I had the courage to do all as I could do, which was turn up for her other daughter and her other son, and to be at the funeral, and to be loving, and to be kind, and to be sad with them, and to acknowledge things, and just be part of it, and be present to it. Isn't that just one of the amazing gifts that we're given in recovery? That we get to be present for life. We get to be present and bear witness to life as it goes on. I was never present to life. I never got to bear witness to things. Even when I gave birth to me children, the most loving, the things I love most in this world, I couldn't even be present for that. The minute I saw them, I was like, oh, overwhelmed. Oh my God, they're beautiful. But the next thought was, I want to go out to the car so I can smoke or so I can whatever. You know what I mean? I couldn't be in it. And you know, my girls have grown up in a home of recovery. They have absolutely, they would know the slogans. They'd know that this too shall pass. They'd know, Ma, you should ring your sponsor. They know all the lingo. They know too much lingo. They know the resentment word, the fear word. They know all of that because they have grown up these past 12 years in recovery. They are amazing girls, and I don't take credit for it. You know, obviously I have turned up with them and I have been present with them, but I know that my girls would not be the 2 young women they are today in this world and doing what they're doing in the world if it wasn't for the 12-step program, if it wasn't for really good members that I've met along the way that have carried me and my girls, if it wasn't for God, and if it wasn't for everything that I've been shown throughout the process of growing in recovery. You know, one of them is 19 and she just got accepted last year into one of the best universities in Ireland, which is DCU. It's in our capital in Dublin, and I say that like just so full of pride, like, and so full of grace and so full of thanks, because where I came from, nobody finished high school, never mind went to third level education. So I just to be so proud, like, and so grateful to God, like. And then my other girl is 16 and she's in the middle of high school and she's like just a little force in her own, like, you know, and she probably reminds me a little bit too much of myself. There's a bit of devilment and boldment in her, but it's nothing to be alarmed. You know what I mean? They've grown up in safety. They've grown up in a home of God. They say their prayers. They believe the power. They know the serenity prayer. Me daughter was at somebody's funeral recently and she goes, Mom, it was her friend's father at school. Mom, he must have been an alcoholic because they said the serenity prayer at the end of the funeral. Would you say he was an alcoholic? And you know, they just know all the stuff, like, you know, and it's such good, you know, it's all thanks to the fellowship and the program and what has been given to me so freely around here. I mean, it's for fun, it's for free, and that's how I received, and that's how it was given, through bitter tears and pain also, you know. So if you're new here, or if you're around here a long time, or if no matter what, you know, the beautiful phrase of this too shall pass, the good, the bad and the ugly. But what has remained constant in my heart, and I hope throughout the rest of my little life on this earth, is my relationship with God. So I'll leave at that with you all, and thanks so much for being with me today.